The music swelled. Tears glistened. She was seconds from saying, "I do," until her long-lost dog charged down the aisle, barking wildly, blocking her path. No one understood except him. And in that moment, her perfect wedding unraveled into a nightmare she never saw coming. Sunlight poured through stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscopes of color across the marble floor. White roses lined every pew, their sweet perfume mingling with the soft hum of string music. Lena stood at the entrance, her ivory gown shimmering with every breath, eyes bright with quiet joy. At 28, she'd waited for this: love, stability, a future. Her mother squeezed her hand, whispering, "Your father would be so proud." Lena smiled through tears. Mark had been perfect, attentive, kind, always remembering how she took her tea. He'd comforted her through the grief of losing her dad a year ago, holding her as she cried over old photos and unpaid bills. And Buddy, her golden retriever since childhood, had vanished around the same time, leaving a silence no one could fill. But today felt like healing, like a new beginning wrapped in lace and promise. The priest nodded. The music swelled. She took her father's place in her heart and stepped forward, heart pounding with hope. She walked slowly, each footfall echoing in the hushed sanctuary. Guests turned, eyes soft with admiration. Children leaned forward in awe. At the altar, Mark beamed, his hands clasped tightly, eyes glistening. He looked every bit the devoted groom. Handsome in his tailored suit, posture proud. Lena's heart swelled. This was it, the life she'd dreamed of. But halfway down the aisle, laughter turned to confusion. A sharp, desperate bark tore through the sacred air. The heavy oak doors burst open, and there he was. Buddy, thin, scarred, eyes wide with urgency. He sprinted past stunned guests, skidding to a halt directly in front of Lena, blocking her path. Her bouquet tumbled to the floor. "Buddy," she whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. He whined, not in anger, but in warning, then turned his glare toward Mark. The groom's smile faltered. "Must be stressed," he said, chuckling nervously, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the altar. Buddy didn't move. He dropped to his haunches, tail stiff, ears forward, eyes locked on Mark with fierce intensity. Lena knelt, ignoring the rustle of whispers. "You came back," she breathed, reaching out. Buddy yanked at her dress, pulling her toward the exit, eyes pleading. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Mark stepped forward, voice tight. Someone control that mutt. But Buddy spun, growling low, placing himself firmly between them. A chill ran through Lena. She remembered now how Buddy had cowered whenever Mark visited, how he'd once snarled when Mark tried to hug her. She'd brushed it off as stress, as grief. Now, he pawed frantically at Mark's jacket, circling like a sentinel. Guests murmured. A bridesmaid frowned, pulling out her phone. Then, clink, a small silver key fell from Mark's pocket. Lena's breath caught. It was the key to her father's old storage unit, the one she'd reported missing weeks ago after discovering her late father's antique watch and property deeds had vanished. "That's not mine," Mark snapped, but his hands trembled as he bent to grab it. Buddy lunged, not to attack, but to shield the key with his body, teeth bared in silent warning. The priest raised a hand. "Perhaps we should pause." Chaos rippled through the pews. Someone called out, "What's going on?" Lena's mind raced. Missing jewelry, unexplained withdrawals from her trust fund, documents that vanished from her father's safe. All began after Mark moved in. Within minutes, 2 officers arrived, alerted by Lena's best friend, who'd grown suspicious after spotting Mark arguing with a stranger outside a pawn shop days earlier. They searched his phone. Texts revealed everything. Plans to marry Lena, access her inheritance, transfer assets, and disappear to Costa Rica within a week. The storage unit? Filled with forged deeds, stolen antiques, fake passports under different names. Under pressure, Mark cracked. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he stammered, voice breaking. Then came the cruelest truth. Buddy hadn't run away. Mark had driven him 50 miles into the forest and left him there, because the dog saw him rifling through Lena's father's will the night he moved in. Buddy fought his way back, starving, limping, surviving on rainwater and scraps, guided only by memory and devotion. He'd tracked Lena for months, sleeping under porches, following rumors of a bride named Lena in white. He arrived just in time. Lena sank to her knees, sobbing, not for the wedding, but for the betrayal. For the dog who braved storms, hunger, and distance just to save her from a life of lies. The church emptied slowly, guests whispering, some crying, others staring at Mark in disbelief as officers led him away in handcuffs. Outside, dusk settled over the quiet street, snow beginning to fall in soft, silent flakes. Lena sat on the stone steps, wrapped in her mother's shawl, her wedding dress stained with dirt, tears, and paw prints. Buddy rested his head gently on her lap, his breathing steady now, eyes soft with devotion. She stroked his fur, tracing the scar along his ear, the one he didn't have when he disappeared. "You tried to tell me," she whispered, voice thick with regret and gratitude. "And I almost didn't listen." She remembered every nudge, every warning growl, every time Buddy stood between her and Mark in the hallway. She'd called it jealousy, but it was protection. Sometimes love doesn't speak in words. It barks in the quiet, stands its ground when the world is smiling, and returns through darkness just to keep you safe. In the weeks that followed, Lena reclaimed her life piece by piece. She filed police reports, recovered stolen heirlooms, and canceled joint accounts Mark had opened without her knowledge. Therapists called it coercive deception, a slow, calculated erosion of trust disguised as romance. But none of that mattered as much as the quiet moments with Buddy. Mornings on the porch, walks in the woods, the way he'd rest his chin on her knee when she cried. She realized then that her father's greatest gift hadn't been the house or the savings. It was Buddy, the loyal heart that never stopped loving her, even when she forgot to listen. Months later, she sold the old family home and used the funds to open a rescue shelter on the edge of town. She called it Buddy's Promise. Every dog there had a story, abandoned, betrayed, forgotten, just like him, and just like her. Now, instead of wedding photos, her walls were filled with adoption certificates and muddy paw prints. She found peace not in grand gestures, but in second chances. If this story moved you, please hit like, share, and subscribe to Rescue Tales. Your support helps us share more real stories of loyalty, courage, and second chances. And tell me in the comments, has an animal ever changed the course of your life? Your story might be the one that inspires someone else to listen, to trust, and to never ignore the quiet heroes who walk beside us. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the most important voice isn't the one that speaks, it's the one that barks.